The Astrax came from the shadows of space, bodies resilient as steel, egos even harder. They claimed to be immortal, untouchable, beyond the reach of time or death. They were wrong. The airlock warning blares like a countdown to the end of the world. Grant Mercer braces himself against the twisted remains of the corridor, one arm wrapped around a damaged support beam. Red emergency lights flash in the metallic ruin of the space station. Outpost 9, the last line of defense before Earth's inner system. Around him, the bodies of his squadmates float, silent, weightless casualties of a battle that should have been over hours ago. He grips his pulse rifle tighter, knowing there's no backup coming. A burst of static crackles through his earpiece. "Mercer, this is command. Get the hell out of there. Fleet's been wiped. We can't hold them." Grant spits blood into his helmet and glances at the cracked visor. One good hit and he's done. But that's the least of his worries now. He catches a glimpse through the breach in the station's hull, a glimmer of Astrax ships, sleek and deadly, blotting out the stars like a plague. He knows what's coming next, boarding parties, to pick apart what's left. He shuts off the comms, not even bothering with a response. There's nowhere to run. They hit hard and fast. Explosions rock the station, shaking loose panels and sending more debris into the void. Through the breach, Grant spots them, armored figures leaping through the vacuum, landing with a grace that no human could match. Their faces are masked by sleek helmets, eyes burning like blue fire. Astrax. He's fought them before, but never like this. Grant moves, muscles screaming from hours of combat. He ducks into a side corridor just as the first Astrax lands, their boots magnetizing to the station's floor. Grant fires, pulse shots searing through the metal walls, leaving smoking holes. The Astrax evades effortlessly, then returns fire, a beam slicing past Grant's shoulder and melting a bulkhead behind him. They advance, not in a rush, confident, like they know they've already won. Grant's down to 2 shots in his rifle when they speak through the comm link. Their voices are like grating metal, cold and mocking. "Human, your kind should have learned by now. There is no victory for you here. No survival. You will die, and we will endure." He fires back, but the shot goes wide. He's out of ammo, lungs burning with every breath. He feels the end coming, but something inside him refuses to give. There's a detonation nearby, another piece of the station breaking off into space, and the Astrax's leader pauses, tilting his head. Grant sees his chance. He lunges forward, activating the emergency mag clamp on his boots. The impact sends a shockwave up his leg, but he rams the butt of his rifle into the Astrax's helmet. The visor cracks, revealing dark, alien eyes, and Grant barely has time to see the rage twist across the Astrax's face before the alien retaliates. A fist catches Grant across the helmet, smashing him into the wall. Blood clouds his vision, pain tearing through his skull. But through it all, he hears something, the Astrax's voice, now a low hiss. "You humans, always thinking you can defy the inevitable. Weak. But you fight like you believe it matters." The alien reaches out, a gauntleted hand tightening around Grant's throat. He struggles, vision dimming, the airlock's alarms fading into the background. But then, he feels something strange. A heat, starting deep in his chest, spreading through his limbs. The pain doesn't vanish, it intensifies, but underneath it is a surge of energy, raw, defiant. The Astrax's grip tightens, and Grant's vision goes black. He knows he's dead. He has to be. But then, through the haze of darkness, he hears something that shouldn't be possible, a heartbeat. His heartbeat, stronger than it should be. And then he wakes up. It's a nightmare rebirth. He comes to, gasping for air, finding himself lying in the wreckage of the station's control room. He remembers the Astrax's hand around his neck, the bones breaking. But as he touches his throat, he finds nothing. No injury, no pain, just his own skin, intact and whole. The realization hits him like a shockwave. He should be dead. His spine should be snapped in 2, lungs crushed. Instead, he's alive, and the Astrax lying nearby is not. Its face is frozen in shock, chest burned through by the last pulse shot Grant never remembered firing. He's never seen an Astrax die with fear in their eyes. It's almost human. Before he can process any of it, the station shudders again, and he's reminded of the bigger problem. He grabs the alien's fallen weapon, something his training barely covers. But he knows one thing: if the Astrax saw what happened to him, if they know he survived, they won't stop until they capture him. Grant staggers to his feet, feeling a tremor run through his body, like it's trying to adjust to this new, impossible reality. His comm crackles to life again. But this time it's not Earth Command, it's a deep, distorted voice. One that doesn't sound quite human, or quite Astrax. Subject Alpha detected. Evolutionary anomaly identified. Initiating retrieval protocol. Grant doesn't wait to find out what that means. He grabs the Astrax's rifle, shoves down the panic rising in his chest, and bolts down the ruined corridor, deeper into the dying station, toward the emergency pod bay. But even as he runs, the questions claw at his mind, more terrifying than any enemy he's ever faced. What the hell is happening to him? And who else knows? Grant stumbles through the remains of Outpost 9's corridors, every step a battle against the station's failing gravity. His vision wavers as the emergency lights flicker, red, then black, then red again, casting long shadows that dance across twisted metal and shattered screens. His pulse races in sync with the alarm, a steady reminder that time is running out. He clutches the Astrax rifle in both hands, its alien weight unfamiliar. He doesn't know what's happening to his body, only that he's moving faster than he should be. Muscles that should be torn feel like they're humming with energy, and every breath comes easier than the last. He forces his mind to focus, think, survive, figure it out later. The emergency pod bay is just ahead. He rounds the corner, boots skidding on a patch of coolant, and freezes. 2 Astrax are already there, standing guard at the sealed hatch. Their helmets snap toward him, blue eyes burning through the darkness. Grant tightens his grip on the rifle. No hesitation. He squeezes the trigger, sending a white-hot burst of energy toward the first Astrax. It clips the alien's shoulder, sending it spinning into the bulkhead. But before he can fire again, the second Astrax charges, covering the distance between them in a heartbeat. Grant tries to sidestep, but it's too fast, slamming into him with enough force to dent the wall behind him. Pain erupts in his ribs, but this time he feels something push back. There's a heat under his skin, the same strange sensation from before, and for a split second, he sees the Astrax's expression shift, almost like it's reading the impossible signals coming from Grant's body. Grant seizes the moment, shoving the barrel of the rifle against its chest and firing. The blast sends the Astrax stumbling, its armor searing. It snarls something in its guttural language, but Grant's not sticking around to translate. He aims at the door controls, firing twice more. Sparks fly as the door lock shatters, and he shoves his way into the pod bay. The pod bay is chaos. Only one escape pod remains intact, the others twisted beyond use. Grant lunges for it, knowing he has seconds at best. He slams the door shut behind him, overrides the launch sequence, and straps in. Through the viewport, he sees the Astrax clawing at the bay door, the weakened barrier creaking under their strength. He punches the launch button just as the door bursts open. The pod shoots forward, the G-forces slamming him back into his seat. He catches a final glimpse of the Astrax, eyes blazing, a wordless promise of pursuit, before they're swallowed by the dark. A moment of silence. The roar of the engines fades, leaving only the hum of life support and Grant's ragged breathing. He stares out the viewport at the debris field of Outpost 9, the shattered remains of what used to be humanity's front line. But the silence isn't comforting. It's heavy, pressing against his thoughts, demanding answers he doesn't have. He unbuckles himself and checks the pod systems, fingers trembling as he brings up the nav chart. A course is already plotted, back to the nearest Earth outpost. But the comm line is still active, and there's a hiss, a faint distortion of something breaking through. Subject Alpha. Recovery required. Secondary objective, neutralize. Grant freezes. The voice, it's the same one he heard before, the deep, almost metallic tone. But this time, it's clearer. Whoever or whatever it is, it's tracking him. And that means the questions he's running from are catching up. He shuts off the comms, overriding the signal, and tries to focus on the nav chart. There's no way he's going to Earth now, not with this thing after him. Hours pass. Grant drifts in and out of consciousness, haunted by dreams that don't feel like his own, visions of a place that's wrong, twisted landscapes where gravity warps and light bends in ways that defy sense. He wakes with a start, sweating, and checks the pod's trajectory. Something's changed. The nav system blinks an error. Grant punches the controls, cursing under his breath. But the display glitches again, static washing over the screen. And through the static, he catches a glimpse of coordinates, ones he doesn't recognize. They're not on any chart he's seen before, but they're locked in, overriding his inputs. And behind the distortion, he hears that voice again, clearer than ever. "Come to us, Subject Alpha. The truth awaits." Grant's mind races. He could try to override the system, reset the pod's course. But there's a pull, a sense that whatever is out there is connected to the thing inside him, the thing that shouldn't exist. He thinks of the Astrax's eyes when they saw him rise from the dead. Fear. They knew something, and whatever it is, it terrifies them more than their own supposed immortality. He glances at the pod's viewport, where the distant stars stretch into unfamiliar constellations. He's far beyond Outpost 9's debris field now, the darkness of space swallowing all traces of the battle. And yet, out here in the silence, he feels drawn, like a cord around his chest, pulling him toward that unknown point in space. He takes a breath, steeling himself. If there's a chance to get answers, he'll take it. Because whatever this is, it's bigger than just him, bigger than any battle he's fought before. Grant adjusts his course, following the coordinates into the unknown, hoping he's not leading himself straight into a trap. The pod's engines hum as it veers toward the distant point, leaving the safety of known space behind. Grant stares at the console as the pod hurtles toward the coordinates, every second pulling him deeper into uncharted space. His mind races with possibilities, none of them comforting. He shifts uncomfortably in the seat, still feeling the echo of that strange heat under his skin, like a low-frequency hum that pulses through his veins. What am I becoming? He forces his thoughts back to survival. He checks the pod's scanner for signs of pursuit. No Astrax yet, but he knows they won't be far behind. And then there's that other thing, the voice that called him Subject Alpha, that knew about him when even he didn't. Whoever they are, they're watching, tracking his every move. Grant clenches his fists. He doesn't like being a pawn in someone else's game, but right now, he's got no other leads. As the stars warp around the pod, he makes a decision. He'll find this mysterious third party, get the answers he needs, and figure out what the hell he's supposed to do with this power before it gets him killed. The journey stretches on for hours. Grant drifts in and out of restless sleep, haunted by memories that don't quite feel like his own. He's in a lab, bright lights blinding him, voices murmuring about subjects and thresholds. The visions shift to strange landscapes, places that twist like Escher drawings where gravity bends and time stretches. He wakes up with a start, heart pounding, as the pod's alarms blare. He scans the console, a gravitational anomaly ahead. He pulls the controls, trying to veer off, but the pod is locked on course, a silent hand guiding it toward the unknown. And then he sees it. Through the viewport, a massive structure looms in the void, a ringed construct, floating in the blackness of space, ancient and covered in a lattice of alien designs. The coordinates lead straight to it. The pod jerks violently as it passes through the ring's invisible boundary, and the space outside distorts, bending the stars into streaks of blue and white. Grant's mind reels. He's never seen anything like this, not in any Earth outpost or in the Astrax records he's come across. The pod systems glitch, and then there's a flash, another message coming through. Welcome, Subject Alpha. Prepare for entry. He can't pinpoint the source, no origin point, just a voice that seems to fill the pod itself. Grant grits his teeth, clenching the rifle tighter, but there's no turning back now. The pod decelerates sharply, pulling him into the gravity well of the structure, guiding him toward a landing bay nestled within one of the ring's lower arms. The bay is cold, sterile, like a mausoleum. As Grant steps out of the pod, his breath forms clouds in the air. The gravity here is lighter than Earth's, enough to make each step feel like he's moving through a dream. He scans the bay, rifle at the ready, but it's eerily empty, the only sound the distant hum of machinery. He taps into the pod's comms, trying to raise any Earth frequencies, static. He tries the Astrax channels, nothing. He's truly on his own. And then a light flickers ahead, casting shadows down a long corridor. Grant steels himself and moves forward, every instinct telling him to turn back, but the same inexplicable pull drags him deeper into the structure. Deeper inside, the air changes. It's warmer here, and as he rounds a corner, he finds a chamber lined with what look like containment pods, each one filled with a shimmering liquid. His breath catches as he recognizes the shape floating inside one of them, a human. No, many humans, each one suspended in a state of half-consciousness, their bodies marked with scars, burns, and the same healing tissue that Grant felt on himself. "What the hell is this?" he mutters, stepping closer to one of the pods. His mind races. This is more than just an anomaly. It's a secret, a truth buried far beyond the reach of Earth and Astrax alike. But why? Subject Alpha. The voice echoes through the chamber again, but this time it's softer, almost human. Grant whirls around, rifle aimed, but there's no one there. The lights flicker, and a figure appears at the far end of the chamber, a tall silhouette, just out of focus, with eyes that gleam like the stars outside. The figure takes a step forward, and Grant feels the air thrum with energy, the heat under his skin intensifying, almost resonating with the presence before him. The figure's voice is barely more than a whisper, but it reaches Grant's ears like a shout. "You are not the first, Grant Mercer, but you may be the last. Come and see what has been kept from you, from all of us." Grant doesn't lower his rifle, but he takes a step closer, squinting into the darkness, trying to make out the figure's face. But all he sees is a faint, almost sorrowful smile. And then, in a flash, the figure disappears, leaving Grant alone in the chamber with 1,000 questions and no answers. The silence is suffocating. Grant stands alone in the chamber, surrounded by the pods with their sleeping occupants. The cryptic figure's words linger in the air, sinking into his thoughts like a poison. "You are not the first, but you may be the last." Grant tightens his grip on the rifle, his knuckles whitening. The words tug at buried memories, pulling flashes of images, faces he doesn't recognize. A sterile lab, whispers about thresholds and subjects. But the harder he tries to focus, the more the memories slip away, like sand through his fingers. He paces around the chamber, looking at each of the pods. Some of the humans inside bear scars like his, jagged wounds that seem to heal even as he watches. Were they like me? A low hum fills the air. Grant tenses, snapping his rifle up. But it's not the figure, it's the chamber itself, the sound growing louder until it vibrates through the floor beneath his boots. Lights flicker, and suddenly the pod to his right lights up, a cascade of data scrolling across the display. Grant steps closer. The symbols are alien, yet some part of his mind starts to make sense of them, like a language he'd once known but forgotten. He reads aloud the translation that forms in his thoughts. Subject 2007, deviation stable. Duration, 112 years. Suspended state, active. Grant swallows hard. 112 years. He looks at the face behind the glass, a man, barely older than Grant himself, frozen in a state between life and death. Questions burn in his mind, but there's no time to dwell on them. The hum reaches a piercing pitch, and the chamber shudders violently. Grant curses under his breath. Red lights flash from hidden panels along the walls, and a synthesized voice, different from the one that spoke to him before, blares through the chamber. Intruder detected. Initiating containment protocol. He bolts back to the entrance, but the doors slide shut before he can reach them. A blast door slams down, trapping him inside. He's sealed in with the pods, the walls closing in with a hiss of pressurizing air. Grant's mind races. He needs a way out, fast. He shoulders his rifle, aiming at the blast door, but a shimmer of energy ripples over its surface. Some kind of shield. He needs another plan. His eyes dart around the chamber until they settle on the control panel beside the activated pod. He makes a split-second decision. Grant pulls a blade from his belt and pries open the panel. Wires spill out like exposed veins. He yanks a handful loose, trying to short the system, but the hum only intensifies. The lights dim, then flicker back to life in a deep crimson. He's made things worse. And then the figure reappears, no longer distant, but directly behind him. Grant spins, aiming his rifle, but the figure holds up a hand, a gesture of calm that sends an involuntary shudder through him. Its face is still blurred, like static on a broken screen, but the eyes shine through, bright and unearthly. You are not prepared for what you seek, Grant Mercer. This place, it is not meant for you. Grant grits his teeth. Then why bring me here? What do you want? The figure tilts its head, and for a moment, Grant thinks he sees pity in those eyes. You want answers, but they would break you as you are. I was like you once. Driven, determined, but understanding comes with a price. Grant's voice hardens. I'm not afraid of whatever you think you're hiding. The figure's form flickers, growing fainter. That is what they said too, the others before you. But they did not survive to face the truth. Will you? The figure disappears again, leaving Grant alone with the rising hum. The floor beneath him splits open, revealing a deep shaft that seems to descend endlessly into darkness. Wind rushes up from below, carrying with it the faint echo of voices, whispers in languages Grant can't understand. He takes a deep breath, bracing himself, and glances back at the pods one last time. He doesn't have all the answers yet, but he's learned one thing. He's not alone in this. Whatever this place is, whatever happened to him, he's just the latest chapter in a story that's been unfolding for far longer than he realized. Grant steps toward the edge of the shaft. He knows the risks, plunging into the unknown, following the breadcrumbs left by a being that could just as easily be leading him to his death. But he doesn't have a choice. He jumps. The wind roars around him as he falls into the abyss, the crimson glow of the chamber fading into black. His mind races, bracing for impact, but instead of hitting solid ground, he finds himself suspended, caught in a swirling vortex of light, images, and voices. And then, a new voice cuts through the noise, a woman's voice, soft but urgent. Grant, if you can hear me, follow the light. We're running out of time. His head snaps up. This voice, different from the others, has a warmth to it, a familiarity that tugs at something deep inside. But before he can ask who she is, the light engulfs him, and the world goes dark. Grant hurtles through the darkness, his mind spinning as the vortex of light and images wraps around him. The sensation is unlike anything he's experienced, a disorienting blend of weightlessness and pressure, as if he's being torn apart and held together all at once. The mysterious female voice still echoes in his ears, urging him forward. Follow the light. We're running out of time. Then, with a jarring thud, he lands on solid ground. Grant's breath catches as he rolls to a stop on a cold, metal floor. He groans, pushing himself up and scanning his surroundings. The darkness fades, revealing a vast chamber with walls that pulse faintly, casting a sickly green glow. The air is thick with the scent of ozone, and every breath carries a metallic taste. He's landed in a section of the structure that feels ancient, even older than the upper levels. The walls are scarred with deep gouges, as if something powerful once tore through them. Strange symbols are etched into the metal, some of them similar to those on the pods, others completely alien. Grant rises to his feet, gripping his rifle tightly. He feels exposed here, vulnerable, and he can't shake the sensation that he's being watched, by the structure itself, or by something lurking within it. He focuses on the voice, replaying the woman's words in his mind. "Who are you?" he whispers into the dark, half expecting a response, but the silence is unbroken. Suddenly, a low hum reverberates through the floor beneath him. Grant tenses, aiming his rifle at the shadows, but it's not another Astrax patrol. Instead, an eerie glow spills from cracks in the floor, spreading in intricate patterns that converge at a central platform. It rises slowly, revealing a pedestal with a strange device atop it. Something that looks like a sphere, hovering and rotating with a gentle whir. Grant approaches cautiously, studying the device. It pulses with the same green light that fills the chamber, casting rippling shadows along the walls. He reaches out a hand, but before he can touch it, a sudden pain flares in his skull, forcing him to his knees. Visions flood his mind, fragmented, chaotic. He sees cities crumbling into dust, spaceships burning in a crimson sky, and faces he doesn't recognize staring back at him with a mix of hope and fear. But beneath it all, he senses something watching him, a presence older than the stars themselves. The visions shift, showing him a towering figure cloaked in shadow, its eyes burning like molten gold. The pain fades, leaving Grant gasping for breath. He clutches his head, trying to shake off the lingering images. But one phrase lingers in his thoughts, whispered by a voice that's not his own. The cycle must be broken. You are the key. Grant forces himself to focus, his eyes darting back to the sphere on the pedestal. It continues to hum softly, casting a pale light. He doesn't know what it means, but he senses that whatever this place is, it holds answers, if he can survive long enough to find them. The chamber suddenly shifts, the floor beneath him grinding as ancient mechanisms awaken. Panels slide open along the walls, revealing a series of intricate, mechanical arms, each ending in a needle-like appendage, sparking with energy. A new voice echoes through the chamber, flat and mechanical. Subject identified, Alpha Class Anomaly. Initiating analysis. Grant's eyes widen as the arms converge on him. He fires a burst at the nearest one, but the energy rounds dissipate against a shimmering barrier that forms around the device. The arms move faster, closing in from all sides. He rolls to the side, narrowly avoiding one of the needles as it spears into the ground where he'd been standing. He has seconds to react. Grant spots a control panel embedded in the pedestal's base. He lunges for it, ripping off the cover and exposing a nest of wires. His fingers work quickly, pulling and splicing cables in a desperate attempt to short-circuit the system. Sparks fly, and one of the mechanical arms seizes up, its needle twitching violently before retracting. But the other arms keep coming. One catches his shoulder, sending a searing pain through his body as energy pulses through him. Grant grits his teeth, using the pain as fuel. He yanks another wire free, this time sending a surge through the pedestal. The sphere's glow flares bright, then dims, and the remaining arms freeze in place, retreating into their housings. Grant collapses against the pedestal, panting heavily, his vision swimming. He knows he's bought himself only a moment's reprieve. Whatever systems are controlling this place will adapt. He reaches for the sphere, pressing his palm against its surface. A shock runs through him, but this time there's no pain, just clarity. The sphere projects a holographic image in the air above him, an ancient star map, with markers indicating points across the galaxy. One of them pulses brightly, and Grant recognizes the coordinates. It's Earth. What does this mean? He mutters to himself. But before he can ponder further, a new transmission crackles through his helmet's comms. It's the woman's voice again, strained with urgency. Grant, they're coming. The Astrax have breached the structure's perimeter. You have to move. They can't get to what you found. Grant curses under his breath, looking back at the sphere. He has no idea what it represents or why the Astrax are so desperate to prevent him from accessing it. But one thing is clear. Whatever secrets this place holds, they're connected to his survival, and possibly the survival of Earth itself. He pockets the sphere, a new determination burning in his chest, and turns back to the exit. The hum of approaching Astrax ships echoes through the structure, but this time he's not just running, he's ready to fight. Grant moves quickly through the ancient corridors, his breath coming in sharp gasps as he navigates the maze-like passageways. His shoulder still throbs from where one of the machine arms seared through his suit, but he grits his teeth and pushes through the pain. He can hear the low rumble of Astrax dropships overhead, the dull thud of their landing gears echoing through the structure's walls. He pauses at a junction, listening. The air is cold and metallic, the only sound a faint hum from deep within the structure. Grant glances at the sphere clutched in his gloved hand, its glow barely visible through the fabric. He doesn't know why he took it, only that the moment his skin touched its smooth surface, something clicked inside him. A sense of familiarity, like a memory that lies just beyond reach. Focus, he tells himself. He slips the sphere into a pocket, checking his rifle. If the Astrax are coming, he's not going down without a fight. A flash of movement catches his eye, a shadow slipping through the far end of the corridor. Grant raises his rifle, creeping forward with the barrel trained on the darkness. But when he rounds the corner, there's nothing but empty space. Damn it, he mutters under his breath, but a sense of unease prickles at the back of his mind. He knows he saw something. A crackle of static fills his comms. He freezes, recognizing the voice that cuts through, smooth, dissonant, a blend of familiarity and strangeness. I told you to hurry, Grant. They're already inside. Who are you? Grant hisses, keeping his voice low as he moves. Why do you keep calling me? Time is not on your side. But it is not too late. You must reach the core. Her voice fades, leaving only the static. Grant clenches his jaw, frustration bubbling up. He hates feeling like a pawn in someone else's game, but the urgency in the voice sends a chill down his spine. If she's telling the truth, then whatever he's found here is worth killing for, and the Astrax are only the start of his problems. The floor beneath him shudders, and Grant stumbles, bracing himself against the wall. A deep, grinding noise echoes through the halls, like ancient gears waking from a long slumber. He glances down the corridor and sees a distant door sliding open, one that wasn't there a moment ago. He moves toward it, rifle at the ready, but his mind races. It's as if the structure itself is guiding him, shifting to reveal a path. He can't tell if that's a good sign or a warning, but he doesn't have the luxury of second-guessing. Beyond the door, the air grows colder. A thin mist curls along the floor, obscuring his vision. Grant steps inside, the chill biting through his suit, and finds himself in a vast, cavernous space. The walls curve upward, meeting in a dome-like ceiling, and at the center of the room stands a single pillar, ancient and worn. It pulses with the same green light as the sphere, casting shifting shadows. Grant approaches slowly, his breath misting in the frigid air. He reaches out, pressing his hand to the pillar's surface, and a jolt runs through him. Images flood his mind, a stream of memories that aren't his own. He sees a world swallowed by fire, cities crumbling into ash as towering machines stride through the ruins. The sky is filled with dark shapes, shadows blotting out the sun. And amid the chaos, a figure stands on a broken tower, their face obscured, eyes glowing with a fierce, unearthly light. The vision shifts, and he sees Earth, a familiar skyline, but changed. He watches as the ground splits open, revealing a network of tunnels beneath, lined with the same alien metal as the structure. But more than that, he sees people, thousands of them, hooked into the walls, their bodies limp and lifeless, preserved. Grant pulls back, gasping. His head spins, nausea twisting in his gut. He stumbles away from the pillar, nearly tripping over a loose cable. He doesn't understand what he just saw, but the implications claw at his mind. This place, this structure, it's not just a relic. It's a warning. The air vibrates with a low, droning hum, and Grant's instincts scream at him to move. He throws himself to the side just as a crackling bolt of energy slams into the pillar, shattering part of its surface. He rolls to his feet, aiming his rifle at the source of the attack. Astrax soldiers spill into the chamber, their weapons glowing in the dim light. Grant fires back, picking off two before they can react. But he's outnumbered, and their energy shields are stronger than he anticipated. He ducks behind the remains of the pillar, reloading with quick, practiced movements. "Give it up, human," one of the Astrax calls out, their voice distorted by their helmet's filter. "You cannot comprehend what you've stumbled into. Hand over the relic, and your death will be swift." Grant snorts, wiping blood from his lip. "I've heard better deals." He leans out from cover, firing another burst, but the Astracs close in, using their shields to deflect his shots. He's running out of space and time, and they know it. A sudden flash of blue light floods the chamber, and Grant's vision blurs. For a moment, he thinks he's been hit, but then he hears the Astracs shouting, their voices tinged with panic. It's him. Grant blinks away the spots in his vision, and his heart skips a beat. A figure stands at the chamber's edge, cloaked in shadow. He recognizes the glowing eyes, the silhouette that has haunted his visions. But seeing it in the flesh, if it even has flesh, is something else entirely. The Astrac soldiers back away, their bravado crumbling. One of them raises a weapon, but the figure moves faster than thought, crossing the distance in an instant. Its hand pierces the soldier's chest, tearing through armor as if it's paper. The remaining Astracs retreat, dragging their wounded comrade. But the figure doesn't follow. Instead, it turns its gaze on Grant, and he feels a pressure against his mind, a voice that isn't spoken, but felt. "You do not belong here, yet here you are. Why?" Grant steadies his breath, forcing himself to stand. He doesn't have an answer that makes sense, not even to himself. "Why don't you tell me?" The figure's eyes flare, and the pressure in Grant's head intensifies. He drops to one knee, clutching at his temples, but then the sensation vanishes as quickly as it came. The figure's expression, if it even has one, remains inscrutable. "The cycle repeats," the figure murmurs, barely audible. "But this time, it is different. Find the truth before it finds you." It fades into the mist, leaving Grant alone with the shattered pillar and the echoes of its words. Grant struggles to his feet, his mind reeling. The chamber is empty again, but the damage remains. He glances down at the sphere, now glowing brighter than before, and realizes that the figure's warning is more than just cryptic rambling. The pieces are starting to fit together, but the full picture is still hidden in shadows. He takes a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. He doesn't know what he's up against, but he knows one thing for certain: he's not going back until he gets some answers. And if the Astracs, the figure, and even this ancient place think they can keep him from the truth, they're going to find out just how stubborn a human can be. Grant adjusts his grip on the rifle, stepping deeper into the structure. The path ahead is dark, but he's never needed much light to find his way. The ancient corridors twist and warp around Grant, their dim glow casting long shadows that stretch and bend in impossible directions. He moves with his rifle clutched tight, senses sharp as he navigates the maze-like passages. Every step is measured, every breath controlled. He's aware that at any moment, the Astracs could return, or worse, it could. The sphere throbs with a steady pulse inside his pocket, a heartbeat that seems to synchronize with the structure's distant hum. He keeps his mind focused on the mission, reach the core, find out what this place is hiding, and figure out why he seems to be at the center of it all. His comms crackle, but it's not the mysterious woman's voice this time. It's a different signal, familiar but garbled. He stops, pressing a hand to the earpiece. "Ant, do you copy? This is K6 command. Repeat, do you read?" Grant's heart leaps into his throat. "K6, this is Grant. I'm inside the structure. Do you have my coordinates?" There's a long pause, static hissing in the background. He grips his rifle tighter, listening to the faint buzz, hoping for some sign that he's not entirely alone out here. "Grant, you're out of range. Evac." The signal fades in and out, but he catches enough to feel a bitter twist in his gut. K6 command's voice is barely more than a ghost through the interference, but the word evac stands out clear as day. Grant curses under his breath, slamming a fist into the wall. They're pulling back. Earth's military is abandoning the mission, cutting their losses. He's stranded, and they think he's already dead or beyond saving. He stares down the corridor, heart pounding with frustration and something darker, fear. If he's going to make it out of this, it's up to him alone. He moves on, driven by a renewed sense of urgency. The hum in the walls grows louder, and the air seems to pulse with energy, vibrating through his bones. It's as if the structure itself is waking up, reacting to his presence, guiding him deeper into its labyrinthine halls. The passages twist downward, leading him into a wide chamber. At the center, a massive door stands, sealed with layers of alien mechanisms, intricate patterns carved into its surface. The sphere in his pocket flares with light, and he pulls it out, feeling the warmth spread through his hand. Grant approaches the door cautiously, raising the sphere toward the engravings. The carvings shift, reconfiguring themselves around the sphere's glow, as if recognizing an ancient key. He feels a shiver run through him, and the door splits open with a low rumble, revealing a stairway spiraling downward into darkness. He hesitates only a moment before stepping through. He's come too far to turn back now. The air grows colder the deeper he descends, the light from the sphere casting eerie shadows across the walls. His mind races with questions: what lies at the end of this path, and why does the structure seem to respond to him, to his touch? But more than that, he can't shake the feeling that something is watching him, lurking just beyond the edge of his vision. The comms crackle again, and this time the woman's voice returns, softer, almost mournful. "You're close, Grant, but you're not ready for what you'll find." "Then why don't you give me a hint?" he bites back, frustration and exhaustion bleeding into his voice. "Why am I here? Why me?" There's a silence, and he almost thinks she won't answer. But then she speaks, her voice tinged with something he can't quite place. "Regret, maybe. Because you are the last, Grant, and because it must be you." He opens his mouth to press further, but the line cuts out, leaving him in the cold, empty dark. Her words echo in his mind. The last. The last what? Survivor? Witness? He doesn't know, but he feels a chill settle in his gut that has nothing to do with the temperature. The stairway ends in a vast, domed chamber, its walls lined with towering monoliths, each carved with symbols that swirl and shift before his eyes. At the center of the chamber stands a pedestal, its surface engraved with the same alien script. And there, hovering above it, is another sphere, larger than the one he carries, its glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Grant approaches slowly, his eyes drawn to the intricate carvings. He places his own sphere on the pedestal beside the larger one, and the room lights up with a blinding green glow. Images flash across the monoliths, too fast for him to process. A ruined world, a dying star, a planet scorched by fire, and then Earth. But not as he knows it. He sees Earth's surface covered in spires of the same alien metal as the structure, great machines burrowing deep into the crust. He sees people, humans, encased in chambers, their bodies held in stasis, and he sees himself, standing at the center of it all, holding the sphere in his hands. The vision snaps away, leaving him gasping for breath, clutching the edge of the pedestal to steady himself. He blinks, trying to make sense of what he just saw. The cycle repeats, but this time, it is different. The figure's words echo in his mind, but they make no more sense than before. A new sound reaches him, footsteps, echoing from the stairway behind him. Grant spins, raising his rifle, but the figure that steps into the chamber isn't Astrax. It's human, clad in a familiar Earth-issued exosuit, helmet tucked under one arm. Grant narrows his eyes, keeping the rifle trained on the newcomer. "Identify yourself." The man raises his hands, showing empty palms. "Easy there, soldier. The name's Elias. K6 Recon. I've been tracking your signal for days." Grant doesn't lower his weapon. "K6 pulled out. Evac the whole sector. What are you doing here?" Elias smirks, a cold glint in his eyes. "Command doesn't always share everything with the grunts. There's more to this mission than you know, and some of us were tasked with making sure it succeeds, no matter the cost." Grant's gut twists with unease. He studies Elias's expression, looking for any sign of deception, but the man's face is a mask. "What do you know about this place?" Grant asks, keeping his voice steady. "And why do they care so much about an old ruin?" Elias's smile fades, replaced by something darker. This isn't a ruin, Grant. It's a gateway, and it's been waiting for someone like you. The chamber's walls pulse with a soft, rhythmic hum, matching the beat of the two spheres on the pedestal. Grant's grip on his rifle tightens as he watches Elias's every move, trying to gauge the man's true intentions. The new arrival hasn't lowered his guard either. His hand lingers near his sidearm, his gaze flicking between Grant and the larger sphere that hovers between them. Elias breaks the tense silence first, his voice low but carrying an edge. You think this place just woke up because of you, Grant? It's been waiting. And now that you've finally triggered the next phase, we can begin. Grant's skepticism is evident, his eyes narrowing. What's your stake in this, Elias? Last I checked, K6 was running for the hills, and they left me here to rot. Elias's smirk fades, replaced by a cold seriousness. They left us here, soldier. Don't think you're special. Earth needed someone who could make it this far, someone the structure wouldn't. He hesitates, choosing his words carefully. Reject. Grant's pulse quickens, his mind racing with possibilities. He glances at the monoliths, at the alien symbols that seem to shift in the corner of his vision. Reject? What are you talking about? Elias meets his gaze, unblinking. This isn't just a tomb, Grant. It's a machine, a testing ground. It weeds out the ones it doesn't need, the ones who can't adapt. His voice lowers, taking on a conspiratorial tone. It's been rewriting us, changing us. You've felt it, haven't you? The headaches, the visions, the way the structure seems to respond to you. Grant's breath catches, a chill creeping up his spine. He had noticed the changes, the unsettling clarity of his senses, the way the structure's whispers seemed to grow louder in his mind. But he pushed those thoughts aside, chalking them up to stress and exhaustion. Now, hearing Elias's words, he can't deny the truth gnawing at him. What do you mean, changing us? Grant's voice is tight, almost a growl. Elias steps closer, a hint of urgency in his expression. It's trying to create something. I don't know what, no one does. But I know that those who can't keep up with the changes, they don't last long. You've seen what the Astracs look like under their helmets, haven't you? Grant recalls the distorted features of the Astrac soldier he'd encountered earlier, the hollow eyes and the skin that seemed to ripple like a mirage. He swallows hard, trying to keep his voice steady. You're saying this place did that to them? Elias nods, his expression grim. And it'll do the same to us if we don't figure out how to control it. That's why Earth sent you in, why they left me behind as their insurance. But I've been here too long, Grant. It's already gotten into my head. He taps his temple, a flicker of something wild crossing his eyes. I hear it whispering, telling me things I don't want to know. Before Grant can respond, a low rumble shakes the chamber. The monoliths flicker, their symbols flashing with a new intensity. The spheres on the pedestal glow brighter, their pulses quickening in sync with the tremors. Elias's face pales, and he glances at the entrance to the chamber. We don't have much time. The Astracs must have found a way through the outer defenses. Grant tenses, his training taking over. He adjusts his grip on the rifle, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. If they're coming, we need a plan. What's the next step? Elias's expression is a twisted mix of desperation and determination. We unlock the core. If we can access it, maybe we can override whatever program is running this place. Turn it against the Astracs, or at least buy us enough time to get out. Grant eyes the pedestal, the larger sphere's light casting eerie shadows across the chamber. And how do we do that? Elias pulls a small, metallic device from his belt, a sleek, handheld unit with cables trailing from its sides. He tosses it to Grant, who catches it on reflex. You're the key, Grant. Plug that into the pedestal, and maybe this place will listen to you. It's our only shot. Grant hesitates, studying the device in his hand. It's a strange hybrid of Earth tech and something else, its design alien in a way that makes his skin crawl. But the sound of distant footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoes through the stairway, cutting off any further doubts. Fine, Grant says, his jaw clenched. He steps toward the pedestal, the device humming as he fits it into the socket beside the spheres. A sharp jolt travels up his arm, and the symbols on the monoliths flare to life. Their shifting patterns coalescing into something almost recognizable, words, a language that tugs at the edges of his memory. The chamber's hum reaches a deafening crescendo, and for a moment, Grant feels his mind stretching beyond the confines of his body, reaching out to touch the structure's consciousness. It's vast, ancient, and filled with a purpose he can barely comprehend. But amid the swirling thoughts and alien impulses, he catches a single, clear message. Only the last will see the dawn. Only the last will claim the key. Pain lances through his skull, and he staggers back, clutching his head. The pedestal shudders, and the larger sphere shifts, projecting a beam of light that strikes the far wall. The stone dissolves under its touch, revealing a hidden passage leading deeper into the structure. Elias moves to his side, his breathing ragged. "What did you see?" Grant swallows hard, forcing the words past the pounding in his skull. "It called me the last. Said I was supposed to find the key." He looks down the passage, its darkness swallowing the light. Whatever that means, it's in there. The Astrax reach the chamber just as Grant and Elias disappear into the hidden passage. The first of them, a heavily armored soldier, raises a weapon and fires, a beam scorching the stone where Grant had been moments before. But the passage seals behind them, leaving the Astrax pounding against the impenetrable barrier. Inside the passage, the air grows colder, and the symbols on the walls glow faintly, casting eerie shadows. Elias leads the way, but he's visibly weakening, his steps unsteady. Grant keeps his rifle raised, the weight of the sphere in his pocket pressing against his chest. "We're close," Elias mutters, his voice barely more than a rasp. "But if I don't make it, you have to." "No," Grant cuts him off. "You're not dying on me, Elias. Not when you might be the only one who knows what's going on." Elias offers a weak chuckle. "You think I know? I'm just trying to survive like you. But this place, Grant, it's not going to let both of us walk out." The passage ends in a circular chamber, where a massive door stands covered in the same alien script. In its center is a slot, perfectly sized for the device Grant holds. As he approaches, the whispers return, louder, more insistent. But this time, he feels a presence within them, something watching from the shadows of his mind. He pauses, glancing at Elias, whose face is slick with sweat. "You ready for this?" Grant asks. Elias gives a grim nod. "Let's see what's behind door number 3. The hidden passage winds downward, a narrow tunnel that seems to twist and shift as they move deeper. The walls are lined with the same alien script that adorned the monoliths, symbols that seem to shift when Grant tries to focus on them. Elias limps beside him, his breathing labored, but the determination in his eyes has not waned. The air grows colder, each breath turning into a puff of mist. The walls seem to exhale a low hum, a vibration that pulses through Grant's bones. He adjusts his grip on his rifle, feeling the weight of the smaller sphere in his pocket. It's grown warm, as if reacting to their descent, and he can't shake the feeling that it's guiding him toward something. Elias speaks up, his voice echoing in the enclosed space. "We're close to the core now. If you're going to back out, now's the time." Grant keeps his gaze ahead, scanning the darkness. "I've made it this far, not turning back now." Elias lets out a dry laugh, though it's tinged with a note of resignation. Part of me hoped you'd be more scared. This place, it has a way of getting inside your head, warping your thoughts until you're not sure what's real anymore." "Yeah, well, I've seen plenty that doesn't make sense," Grant mutters, thinking of the visions and the whispers that had grown louder with each step deeper into the structure. "But that doesn't mean I'm quitting." The tunnel opens up into a vast chamber, unlike any they've seen before. The ceiling is lost in darkness, and the floor is covered in a sea of shifting lights, thousands of symbols moving in patterns like a living constellation. At the center of the chamber, a colossal structure rises, shaped like an ancient obelisk, but with surfaces that shimmer as if liquid. Grant steps closer, mesmerized by the shifting lights. Each symbol flickers with a different color, casting eerie reflections across the chamber. The smaller sphere in his pocket pulses in time with the symbols, tugging at him like a magnet. Elias stares at the obelisk, his expression a mix of awe and fear. That's the core. Whatever controls this place, it's in there. Before Grant can respond, the chamber shudders. A distant roar echoes through the passage behind them, and the walls tremble as if reacting to an unseen force. Grant raises his rifle, eyes scanning the shadows. "It's the Astrax," Elias says, his voice tight. "They must have breached the outer defenses." Grant curses under his breath. "We don't have much time. How do we access the core?" Elias hesitates, glancing at the device in Grant's hand. "You need to place it at the base of the obelisk. It should interface with the system. If you're what it's been waiting for, it'll react." "And if I'm not?" Elias doesn't answer, but the look in his eyes is enough. Grant swallows hard, then steps forward, approaching the obelisk. The lights ripple as he draws near, as if sensing his presence. He kneels, fitting the device into a narrow slot at the base. It clicks into place, and the obelisk flares with a blinding light. A wave of energy washes over him, and suddenly he's not in the chamber anymore. He's floating in a void, surrounded by a sea of stars, each one pulsing in time with his heartbeat. The whispers are louder here, voices that speak in a language he can almost understand, as if hovering just beyond the edge of memory. The last will see the dawn. The last will reshape the path. A presence emerges from the darkness, a silhouette of shifting light. It's humanoid, but its features are indistinct, like a reflection in rippling water. Grant tries to focus on it, but the harder he looks, the more it seems to blur. "Who are you?" he demands, his voice echoing through the void. "What is this place?" The figure tilts its head, as if considering him. "You are the key. The bridge between what was and what will be. The one who may choose." "Choose what?" Grant presses, frustration boiling over. "What's the point of all this?" The figure doesn't answer directly. Instead, it raises a hand, and the void shifts around them. Images flash by, Earth as it is, a blue-green jewel suspended in space. Then Earth as it could be, wrapped in tendrils of light, its cities glowing with an otherworldly energy. Two paths. One where your kind ascends, guided by the wisdom of those who came before, and one where the dawn never breaks, and the darkness swallows all. The vision shifts again, and Grant sees a desolate landscape, Earth's surface scorched and barren. Towers of twisted metal rise from the ruins, the remnants of a civilization that reached too far. He feels a weight settle on his chest, a dread that seems to seep into his bones. "What am I supposed to do?" he asks, but his voice cracks with uncertainty. The figure fades, its voice a whisper that seems to echo both in his mind and in the chamber around him. "You are the last. The choice is yours." Grant snaps back to reality, gasping as he finds himself kneeling before the obelisk. The device at its base hums with energy, and the symbols on the floor surge, forming a spiral pattern that leads toward a hidden doorway on the far side of the chamber. Elias stares at him, wide-eyed. "What did you see?" Grant shakes his head, struggling to process the vision. It gave me a choice, but I don't know what that means yet." Before Elias can respond, a loud crash echoes through the passage behind them. The Astrax forces have arrived, their footsteps thundering as they march into the chamber. Grant raises his rifle, positioning himself between Elias and the approaching soldiers. The Astrax leader, a towering figure in advanced combat armor, steps forward, his visor gleaming with the reflection of the obelisk's light. "Step away from the core," the Astrax leader commands, his voice amplified through a mechanical speaker. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Grant tightens his grip on the rifle, his mind racing. The sphere pulses in his pocket, as if urging him toward the doorway revealed by the obelisk's energy. Elias glances at the door, then back at Grant. "If you want to find out the truth, we need to move. Now." Grant makes his decision, He grabs the device from the obelisk and bolts toward the door, with Elias close behind. The Astrax leader shouts orders, and gunfire erupts, bullets sparking against the stone. Grant fires back, covering their retreat as they disappear through the doorway, the sounds of the Astrax fading behind them. The hidden doorway seals behind them, cutting off the sound of gunfire as Grant and Elias stumble into a narrow corridor. The air is colder here, thick with a metallic tang that clings to their throats. The walls pulse with a dim, bluish light, revealing intricate patterns that shift as they move past. Grant catches glimpses of shapes within the symbols, figures locked in battle, others raising their hands toward a swirling vortex. He's breathless, the weight of the vision lingering in his mind. For a moment, he sees Earth again, desolate and ruined, a reminder of what could happen if he fails. Elias keeps pace beside him, limping but determined. He glances back at the sealed door, then at Grant. "We've bought ourselves a little time, but they won't be far behind. That door will hold for a while, but the Astrax won't stop until they've got what they came for." Grant keeps his focus ahead, the sphere in his pocket guiding them through the twisting path. "You still haven't told me why they're so desperate to get inside. What do they know that I don't?" Elias hesitates, his expression shadowed by the flickering light. "They think they can harness the structure's power, use it to reshape reality itself. But they don't understand what they're dealing with. This place isn't just a weapon, it's a gate." "A gate to what?" Grant demands, frustration biting into his voice. Elias glances at him, his gaze unreadable. "To something older than either of us, older than Earth." Before Grant can press further, the corridor opens into a new chamber. This one is smaller, more confined, with walls that seem to ripple like water. At the center of the room, a pedestal rises, surrounded by 3 concentric rings that rotate in silence. The smaller sphere in Grant's pocket hums, resonating with the movement of the rings. Elias's breath catches, his eyes fixed on the pedestal. This is it, the convergence chamber. It's where the structure's power is focused. But I don't know what it's supposed to do. Grant approaches the pedestal, feeling the hum grow stronger with every step. He places the sphere in the central groove, and the rings begin to spin faster, emitting a deep, rhythmic pulse that echoes through the chamber. The lights dim, and the floor beneath them shifts. For a moment, Grant feels weightless, as if the ground has fallen away. Then the chamber changes around them, the walls melting into a vast void filled with swirling lights and shadowy figures that drift just out of reach. Grant's voice is tight with urgency. "What the hell is this?" Elias doesn't answer. He's staring into the void, his face pale. This shouldn't be here. This is..." Before he can finish, the air ripples and a figure steps out of the darkness. It's the same presence from Grant's vision, humanoid but blurred, a silhouette that shimmers like oil on water. Its voice echoes through the chamber, a sound like whispers layered on top of each other. "You have come far, but your path is not yet complete. The test awaits, and with it, the truth of your kind's place in the cycle." Grant feels a shiver crawl down his spine. He raises his rifle, but the figure doesn't react. "Who are you? What is this test?" "The last must understand the nature of sacrifice," the figure intones. "The choice must be made willingly. One path leads to survival, the other to annihilation, but only those who see beyond fear may choose." Elias steps forward, his expression fierce. "We don't have time for riddles. We need answers, now. What is this place? What does it want from us?" The figure shifts, its outline becoming clearer for a moment. Grant catches a glimpse of something that almost looks human, eyes filled with a strange, unearthly light. "I am the keeper of the threshold. I am the memory of those who came before, and I am bound to ensure the last fulfills their purpose." The void ripples, and Grant feels a crushing pressure in his mind, visions flashing faster than he can process. He sees himself standing on a ruined earth, his hands stained with blood. Then he sees Elias, surrounded by shadows, his face twisted with grief. And beyond that, he sees a door a door that leads into a darkness that seems to stretch forever. Grant grits his teeth, forcing the visions back. If I'm supposed to be this last, then what's the choice? What do you want from me? The figure tilts its head, and Grant thinks he sees a flicker of something almost like sadness in its gaze. To accept the burden of knowledge is to sacrifice your future. To reject it is to doom your kind to repeat the cycle. The choice is yours, and yours alone. Before Grant can respond, the vision shatters, and he's back in the chamber, gasping for breath. The pedestal glows with a faint light, and the rings slow to a stop. Elias is staring at him, his expression a mix of awe and frustration. What did you see? Grant shakes his head, trying to steady his thoughts. A choice. But I don't know what it means. It's like they're testing us, testing me. Elias's mouth tightens into a grim line. We don't have time for their games. The Astrax will be through that door any second, and if they get their hands on this place... A metallic clang echoes through the corridor behind them, cutting him off. The sealed door groans, metal straining as something slams into it from the other side. Grant turns, his grip tightening on his rifle. They're already here. Elias curses under his breath and turns to the pedestal. There has to be a way to activate this chamber, to use its power against them. Maybe if we... A deafening crash splits the air, and the door collapses, sending shards of metal skidding across the floor. The Astrax forces pour into the chamber, their armored forms moving with cold precision. Their leader steps forward, raising a gleaming weapon that crackles with energy. Stand down, the Astrax leader commands, his visor reflecting the glow of the pedestal. You don't know what you're dealing with. The chamber falls silent, the pulse of energy fading into a deep, low hum. Grant's vision swims as the bright light recedes, leaving afterimages of the Astrax forces, frozen in mid-step, caught in the path of the shockwave. The air feels dense, pressing down like an unseen hand, and his ears ring with the echoes of the Keeper's final words, "Choose, last. Choose for your kind." Elias staggers back from the pedestal, breathing heavily. His hands shake as he wipes sweat from his brow, and he stares at Grant, his eyes wide with something between fear and realization. What did we just do? Grant scans the chamber, his vision still adjusting. The Astrax soldiers lie scattered across the floor, their armor scorched and smoking from the energy discharge. But their leader, though clearly injured, remains on his knees, his helmet cracked to reveal a sliver of skin, twisted with a sneer of defiance. Grant levels his rifle at the Astrax leader, but there's hesitation in his grip. You've chased us across half the galaxy. Why? What's so important about this place that you die for it? The leader coughs, a wet, rasping sound, but he manages a smile. You think you're different from us. You have no idea what's really happening here, do you? His eyes flash with a mix of pity and contempt. This place, it's not a sanctuary. It's a tomb, built for those who dared to reach too far. Grant glances at Elias, but his companion's face is unreadable, locked on the pedestal. Elias takes a step forward, his voice low and intense. What do you mean, a tomb? What do you know about the structure's origin? The Astrax leader's laughter is hollow. We've scoured worlds looking for places like this. Hints of a power that could reshape everything. But every time we get close, it ends the same way. Death, or worse. He gestures weakly toward the pedestal, his breath hitching. It doesn't matter what you think you're doing. The Keeper lies. It always has. Grant feels a cold knot twist in his gut. He doesn't trust the Astrax, but the leader's words stir doubts he's been trying to suppress. The visions, the Keeper's cryptic warnings, they all start to blur together, their edges fraying. Elias's voice cuts through the tension. Whatever his story, it doesn't change what we've seen. This chamber holds the key to everything. We've activated it, Grant, but we haven't finished what we started. Before Grant can respond, the pedestal emits a soft hum, and the ground beneath them shifts. The walls around the chamber begin to ripple, as if reality itself is bending under a great weight. The air thickens, and Grant feels a familiar pull, a sense that something immense is staring back at him from the darkness. The convergence awaits, the keeper's voice whispers, but there's a hint of strain in its tone, as if it, too, is struggling against something unseen, one step closer to the truth. But be warned, beyond lies knowledge that cannot be undone. Elias turns to Grant, eyes alight with a manic urgency. This is our chance. We can find out what the Astracs have been afraid of. What the keeper is hiding from us. We can see it all. Grant's hand tightens on the rifle, but he lowers it slowly, his gaze shifting between Elias and the Astrac's leader. What if he's right, Elias? What if this is all a trap? What if we're just following the same path that destroyed them? Elias steps closer, his voice a low hiss. And what if it's our only chance to change things, to break the cycle the keeper keeps talking about? Are you really willing to walk away without knowing? The Astrac's leader's laughter echoes in the chamber, but it's tinged with a grim finality. You'll find nothing but ashes and shadows. The structure's creators thought they could control it, too, but they paid the price. Before they can react, he reaches into his armor, revealing a small device crackling with energy. Grant recognizes the shape instantly, a disruptor charge designed to destabilize the energy fields around them. It hums with lethal potential. Grant lunges forward, but it's too late. The Astrac's leader's thumb presses down, and the device sparks with a blinding flash. The chamber convulses, reality warping around them. Grant feels the floor vanish beneath his feet, his stomach lurching as gravity seems to reverse. He's falling, tumbling through a void that's both blindingly bright and impossibly dark. He lands hard on a cold surface, gasping for breath as the air snaps back into his lungs. Elias's voice rings out nearby, disoriented but alive. Grant, where are we? Grant blinks, his vision clearing to reveal an endless expanse of white, stretching in every direction. There is no sky, no walls, just an infinite horizon. And in the distance, he sees them, shadows, figures moving like ghosts across the blank canvas. One of the figures steps closer, its outline sharpens, and Grant's blood runs cold. It's him, another version of himself, but twisted and broken, with eyes hollowed by despair. The shadow Grant's lips move, but the words are a distorted mockery of his own voice. You failed. You chose wrong, and everything burned. Elias's voice is tight with fear. What is this, Grant? Another vision? The keeper's voice reverberates through the void, but this time it sounds different, fragmented, strained. This is the fracture, the echoes of all choices, all paths. You stand at the edge of understanding, last, but only one reality may prevail. Grant tries to focus, to push the visions back, but they assault him from every side. He sees Earth again, burning under an alien sun, cities swallowed by tides. He sees Elias standing alone in the ruins, clutching a device that pulses with the same energy as the structure. And beyond it all, he sees a darkness that stretches beyond time, filled with countless eyes staring back. Elias's hand clamps onto Grant's arm, pulling him back to the present. We need to anchor ourselves. Focus on the mission. Remember why we're here. Grant nods, forcing himself to breathe. We're not here to see how it ends, Elias. We're here to change it. He raises his rifle, aiming it into the void where the shadows gather. The weapon feels like an anchor in his hands, grounding him against the madness. If this is a choice, then I'll make it. We'll find our way back. The shadows recoil, the vision of his broken self fading into the white. The ground solidifies beneath them, and the chamber slowly reappears, the cold, metallic walls sliding back into place. But something has changed. The pedestal is no longer inert. It pulses with a deep, steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. The keeper's voice returns, but now it's tinged with something almost like respect. You have seen beyond the veil, last. Now, the true test begins. The chamber's heartbeat reverberates through the air, a low, rhythmic pulse that seems to sync with the pounding in Grant's chest. He's still catching his breath, leaning on his rifle for support, while Elias circles the pedestal, eyes fixed on its glowing surface. The Astrax leader lies motionless on the cold floor, his breathing shallow, but the disruptor device clutched in his hand has burnt out, the last spark fading into smoke. Elias glances at Grant, his expression wild with excitement. "Do you hear it, Grant? It's like it's alive. The whole chamber's reacting to us, to what we just did." Grant wipes sweat from his brow, keeping his voice steady. "Or it's preparing for something worse. Don't forget, that leader warned us, said this place was a tomb." Elias shakes his head, brushing off the warning. "They failed. We won't. The Keeper showed us what's possible. We just need to reach further, find out what they never could." He presses a hand against the pedestal, and the glow intensifies, casting long shadows across the chamber. Grant looks back at the Astrax leader, who's barely conscious but watching them through narrowed eyes. There's something in the leader's expression that gives Grant pause, not fear, but a grim understanding. He steps closer, crouching beside the man. "Tell me," Grant demands, keeping his voice low, "why are you really here? What did you think you'd find?" The Astrax leader's voice is a rasping whisper. "You think this is salvation? You're wrong. There's a reason this place was buried. The Keeper. It's not what you think. It only needs one of you to finish what it started." Before Grant can press him further, Elias shouts, his voice breaking with triumph. "Grant, look! I've unlocked a control sequence. We can interface with the entire structure, manipulate its fields. We can make it show us the core." The chamber begins to shift, the walls rippling like water, and a new opening forms in the far wall, a narrow passage that seems to descend into darkness. Grant stands, casting a wary glance at the Astrax leader. The man's words linger in his mind, but Elias's enthusiasm leaves him little choice. "Stay here if you want," Elias says, already moving toward the passage. "But I'm going in." Grant hesitates, torn between his doubts and the need to see this through. He slings his rifle and follows, keeping his senses sharp as they descend. The air grows colder, each step taking them deeper into the structure's unknown depths. The hum grows louder, thrumming through the walls like a great engine awakening. As they reach the bottom of the passage, the space opens up into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows, and a central pillar rises from the floor, encased in a crystalline shell. Strange, shifting lights pulse within, like a heart beating inside translucent skin. Symbols dance across its surface, and the glow reflects in Elias's wide eyes. "It's beautiful," Elias whispers, stepping closer. "Do you see it, Grant? The convergence of timelines, the nexus of everything. This is what the Keeper has been guiding us to." But Grant steps back, his unease growing. "It looks like a cage, Elias, like something trapped inside." Elias rounds on him, his face flushed with excitement. "It's power, Grant. Do you really think the Astrax would fight so hard to keep us away if it wasn't worth something? Think of what this could mean for Earth, for everything." Grant's mind flashes with images, Earth burning under an alien sky, the twisted reflection of himself whispering of failure. He tightens his grip on his rifle, scanning the chamber for any signs of traps, anything that might confirm the Astrax leader's warning. And then, the Keeper's voice returns, its tone colder than before. "You stand on the threshold of knowledge, last, but beware, the truth will demand a price. Choose wisely, or all shall unravel." Elias laughs, spreading his arms. "We're past that point, Keeper. Show us everything." The pillar begins to pulse faster, the lights inside whirling in a dizzying pattern. Grant feels a pressure building, like the air itself is folding in on itself. He takes a step back, his instincts screaming that something is wrong. But before he can speak, the crystalline shell of the pillar begins to crack. A beam of light pierces the ceiling, shooting upward through the chamber and beyond. For a brief moment, Grant sees something, an image seared into his mind. A world torn apart, oceans rising to swallow continents, the sky burning with unfamiliar stars. He hears a roar that shakes the chamber, and he realizes with a sickening dread that it's coming from inside the pillar. The beam shifts, bending toward them, and Grant tackles Elias to the ground. The energy blasts past, searing a line into the chamber's wall, leaving molten metal in its wake. Elias scrambles up, looking at the cracked pillar with wild eyes. It's just the beginning, Grant. We've only scratched the surface." But Grant sees the fear in his eyes. He grabs Elias by the collar, dragging him back. "We need to get out of here, before this place tears itself apart." The Keeper's voice echoes around them, fractured and strained. "You have touched the core, but you cannot control it. The choice must be made, now." Before Grant can respond, the Astrax leader's voice reaches them from the passage. "Fools, you've doomed us all." The ground shudders violently, and cracks snake up the walls, spreading like veins. The crystalline pillar shatters, releasing a torrent of energy that lashes out, turning everything it touches to ash. Grant feels the heat singe his back as he pulls Elias toward the passage, every step a battle against the gale-force wind that rushes from the collapsing chamber. They reach the passage just as the chamber implodes, the force throwing them through the opening. Grant crashes into the cold floor, gasping for air as the Keeper's voice fades, replaced by a low, ominous hum. Elias clutches Grant's arm, his face pale. We have to go back. We can't leave it like this." But Grant shakes his head, feeling the weight of the Astrax leader's warning. "No, Elias. It's not about what we want. It's about what that thing is willing to do. We've seen enough." Elias stares at him, then at the darkened passage, and finally nods, the fire in his eyes dimming. They turn, leaving the shattered chamber behind, but Grant knows deep down that the true consequences of what they've unleashed are only beginning to unfold. The echoes of the chamber's collapse reverberate through the passageway, a deep rumble that shakes the walls. Grant and Elias stumble through the darkness, their breaths ragged, each step uncertain on the uneven floor. The air grows colder with every second, biting at their skin, and the glow from the chamber behind them fades to a dull ember. For the first time in hours, a silence settles between them, one filled with unspoken questions and buried doubts. Grant keeps his rifle steady, listening for any signs of pursuit. The Astrax leader's warnings linger in his mind, along with the Keeper's last words, fractured, ominous, a promise of choices yet to be made. He glances at Elias, whose eyes dart toward the darkened passage behind them, as if expecting the core's light to reawaken and consume them all. Elias breaks the silence, his voice hoarse. "We can't just leave it, Grant. We barely scratched the surface of what it can do. We need to understand." "Understand what?" Grant snaps, his patience finally cracking. "That thing almost turned us into ash. You saw the same thing I did, a world burning, a future we can't control. It's not some puzzle for you to solve." Elias glares back, his face twisted with frustration. "You think running away will fix anything? This place, it's tied to us, to everything. If we don't take control of it, someone else will. The Astrax, or worse." Grant feels a flicker of doubt, not because he trusts Elias's judgment, but because he can't shake the sense that the Keeper is still watching, weighing their every move. The passage stretches out before them, its shadows playing tricks on his eyes. He swallows, forcing down the chill that creeps through his veins. "Let's just get out of here alive first. Then we can argue about saving the world." They push forward, their footsteps echoing down the narrow corridor. The air grows thinner, and Grant realizes they're nearing the structure's outer edge, but the unease gnawing at his gut only deepens. He glances back, half expecting the Astrax leader to rise from the shadows, to throw one last desperate threat their way. But the passage remains empty, swallowed by darkness. Suddenly, the keeper's voice returns, a thin whisper that curls through the air like frost. You seek to flee, but the fracture is not undone. The rift remains. Grant freezes, his grip tightening on the rifle. He glances at Elias, who stares into the darkness, brow furrowed. What do you mean, Keeper? We shut down the core, it's contained. The core is but a part of the whole, the Keeper intones, its voice carrying a note of what almost sounds like regret. You have awakened the rift, and its echoes have reached beyond this place. Even now, others are listening. A chill runs through Grant. Others? You mean the Astrax? The Keeper remains silent for a heartbeat too long. Not all who listen are your enemies, last. But the rift is a beacon, and they will come, seeking what you have touched. Elias curses under his breath, rubbing a hand over his face. Damn it, Grant. We've triggered something, a signal or a ripple through the fabric of, he stops, as if the words are too big, too terrifying to voice. He turns to the passage ahead, and Grant catches a glimpse of the fear beneath the scientist's bravado. They emerge into a broader corridor, where remnants of old machinery line the walls, corroded and ancient, but still humming with a faint energy. A faint breeze stirs the dust, carrying a scent that makes Grant's stomach churn, something metallic, like blood mixed with ozone. The walls bear scratches and faded symbols, traces of past explorers who reached this place and never returned. Grant pauses at the sight of the symbols, running a gloved hand over one of the etchings. It's a crude diagram, almost childlike, depicting a figure standing before a beam of light, their arms outstretched toward a void. Look at this, Elias. They knew about the core, about what it could do. Maybe they tried to stop it, or... Elias steps closer, his eyes scanning the symbols with a frown. Or they tried to harness it and failed. That's why the Astrax call it a tomb. They think it's a warning. But it's not, Grant. It's a challenge. The Keeper wouldn't have shown us those visions if it didn't believe we could control the core. Grant feels a surge of anger, turning on Elias. Stop acting like this is some kind of test, like it's all a game. People died here, look around you. Whatever those visions were, they were a warning, and you're too blinded by ambition to see it. Before Elias can respond, a distant noise echoes through the corridor, a metallic scraping, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. Grant swings his rifle toward the sound, scanning the shadows, but the air is still, too still. He gestures for Elias to stay back, moving cautiously toward the noise. They round a corner and freeze. In the dim light, Grant sees the outline of a figure, thin, gaunt, its movements stiff and unnatural. For a second, he thinks it's another Astrax soldier, but then he sees the tattered remains of an Earth uniform clinging to its frame, the hollow eyes staring through him. Elias's breath catches. What the hell is that? The figure tilts its head, a jerky, mechanical motion, and then it speaks in a voice that crackles like a broken radio. You have awakened the gate. Grant raises his rifle, keeping it trained on the figure, but he can feel the sweat gathering on his brow. Who are you? What do you know about the rift? The figure shudders, its voice distorted with static. I was like you, once, but the Keeper chose. Grant's blood runs cold. He glances at Elias, who stares at the figure with wide eyes, then back at the thing in front of them. What did the Keeper do to you? The figure's head jerks, as if caught in a glitch. It showed us the truth, but truth is a burden. Elias steps forward, ignoring Grant's warning glance. What truth? Tell us, what did you see? The figure's voice drops, barely more than a rasp. The gate, it is not closed. It waits for those who will open it. The ground beneath their feet trembles, a low, thrumming vibration that seems to pulse from deep within the structure. Grant feels the air shift, a sense of something vast and ancient stirring beneath the surface. Elias grabs his arm, his face pale. We've got to go. Now. But the figure reaches out, its hand brushing against Grant's sleeve, its eyes locking onto his. Do not trust the Keeper. The structure shudders around them, the low vibrations echoing through the metal and stone like a heartbeat gone wrong. Grant keeps his rifle aimed at the figure's head, his finger tightening on the trigger as the warped remnants of a human continues to mutter its warnings, each word dripping with static. Elias watches the figure with a mix of fascination and horror, his mind clearly racing through possibilities, what it means, what it could reveal about the structure and about them. But the look in his eyes betrays a deeper fear, one that Grant has seen only a few times since they entered this place. Elias, don't you even think about, Grant starts, but the scientist shakes his head sharply, cutting him off. Elias steps closer to the figure, his voice trembling with a dangerous curiosity. What do you mean? Don't trust the Keeper. It's guiding us, giving us a chance to understand. The figure's head jerks, a fractured, unnatural movement. The Keeper lies. It is bound to the gate, just as we are. Grant's pulse quickens, his instincts screaming at him to move, to drag Elias away from this thing and run. But his feet remain rooted to the ground, caught in the web of its words. What gate? What's on the other side? The figure's mouth twists, as if struggling to form the words. The gate is a fracture between worlds. The Keeper guards it, but cannot control it forever. Elias's eyes widen, the pieces clicking into place in his mind. It's not just about power, is it? It's about containment. The Keeper's holding something back. Elias, that's enough, Grant snaps, wrenching him away from the figure's grasp. The distorted being reaches out again, but Grant shoves it back, watching as it collapses against the wall, its form glitching like a broken hologram. The figure slumps, its voice fading into a whisper. You think you can change the outcome, but some things cannot be undone. The corridor plunges into darkness, the last vestiges of light from the core's chamber swallowed by the structure's walls. Grant pulls Elias along, forcing himself to focus on the path ahead, but the figure's final words burn into his thoughts. Some things cannot be undone. It echoes in his mind like a death knell, a reminder that whatever they've unleashed might already be beyond their control. They push deeper into the structure, but now the air feels charged, buzzing with an unseen energy that makes Grant's skin crawl. The walls hum with a resonance that wasn't there before, as if something beneath the surface is stirring, awakening to the touch of the core's released energy. Elias moves with a frantic urgency, his mind clearly racing to piece together what they've learned. We need to find the Keeper again, get answers. If it's hiding something about the gate, we need to know before the Astracs make their move. Grant grits his teeth, fighting the urge to grab Elias and shake some sense into him. And you think the Keeper's just going to tell us? It's been using us since we got here, Elias, leading us around like pawns. Elias spins to face him, his expression raw with frustration. So what's your plan, Grant? Just run back to the surface and pretend none of this matters. You saw what I saw. If the rift is open, if it's calling out to others. Yeah, I saw it, but I'm not about to gamble our lives on trusting an alien AI with its own agenda. Grant's voice rises, echoing off the metal walls. This place, those visions, it's all part of something bigger than we understand. And if the Astracs get their hands on it, we're all dead. Elias stares at him, breathing heavily, and for a moment, the raw desperation in his eyes makes Grant pause. But then the scientist looks away, his jaw clenched. Fine, but we can't leave until we know what's really at stake here. If the Keeper's lying, we need leverage, something it doesn't want us to see. They continue through the twisting passages, their arguments fading into silence as the structure seems to bend around them, leading them deeper into its labyrinthine depths. Grant's thoughts churn, the figure's warning mingling with the Astracs leader's cryptic words. Every step feels like it's drawing them closer to a line they can't uncross. Suddenly, the Keeper's voice crackles to life, cutting through the darkness like a blade. You are straying from the path, last an echo. The fractures grow wider. You risk all that you seek to protect. Grant tightens his grip on the rifle, glaring into the shadows. You expect us to trust you when you've been lying to us this whole time. Tell us what's really behind that gate. The keeper's tone remains eerily calm, but there's an edge beneath it, a hint of something fraying. The gate is a bridge between realms, a point where time and reality blur. To open it fully is to invite the collapse of what you know. I sought to spare you this burden. Elias's voice trembles with defiance. Then why show us those visions? Why let us see what's possible if you just want us to walk away? A pause stretches, heavy and unnerving. Because even I am bound by the choices of those who came before. You are the heirs to their mistakes, last an echo, but you may yet choose differently. Grant feels a chill settle into his bones, the sense that the keeper is struggling against something beyond its control, some unseen force pressing in from the other side of the rift. He looks to Elias, who meets his gaze with a grim resolve. Elias takes a step forward, toward the keeper's unseen presence, his voice steady. You want us to close the rift, don't you? That's why you've been guiding us, giving us just enough information to keep us moving forward. The keeper's voice is softer now, almost pleading. To close it is to sever the bridge, to end the echoes, but to fail is to invite the others through. They will consume, reshape, all that you know. A deep rumble shakes the corridor, dust falling from the ceiling as the structure's walls groan. Grant steadies himself, trying to ignore the sinking feeling in his gut. If we do this, if we close the rift, what happens to you? I am bound to the gate, and to those who guard it. My fate is no longer my own. Elias glances at Grant, a question in his eyes. For a heartbeat, they stand there, caught between impossible choices, between trust and survival, between the weight of the unknown and the threat of the Astrax waiting in the shadows. But the tremor in the structure doesn't wait for them to decide, the rumbles growing more frequent, as if the entire place is about to shake itself apart. The walls of the structure tremble, resonating with a deep, rhythmic hum that sends vibrations through Grant's boots. It feels like the building itself is breathing, each exhale causing the shadows to deepen, each inhale pulling them closer to the unseen center of the anomaly. Dust trickles from the ceiling, swirling in strange patterns as if caught in an invisible tide. Elias glances at Grant, his expression a blend of excitement and fear. The keeper's losing control. It can't hold back the rift much longer. Grant frowns, scanning the darkened corridor with his rifle raised, half expecting something else to lurch out from the shifting shadows. And that's supposed to be a good thing. The place is falling apart, and the Astrax are still out there, waiting for us to do all the hard work. Elias looks like he's about to argue, but then his gaze shifts over Grant's shoulder, his eyes widening. Grant, behind you. Grant spins around, his finger instinctively tightening on the trigger, but instead of an Astrax operative or a mutated creature, he finds himself staring at a flickering image, a ghostly vision of a woman in a spacesuit, her helmet cracked, face pale and gaunt. Her form blurs and distorts like a glitching transmission. The figure's mouth opens, but the words come out garbled, disjointed. Escape. Too late. Keeper. Lied. Grant's pulse quickens, and he takes a step back, his thoughts racing. What the hell is this? Elias steps closer to the apparition, his voice barely above a whisper. It's a memory, or maybe an echo. The rifts distorting time, blurring the past and the present. The woman's image wavers, her hand reaching out as if to touch something only she can see. We thought we were chosen, but it used us, all of us. The vision fades, leaving only silence in its wake. Grant turns back to Elias, his jaw clenched. She was like us, an explorer. How many others did the Keeper send to their deaths? Elias shakes his head, his expression haunted. It's been manipulating us from the start, using us to awaken the core, to confront the rift. But why? The structure shifts around them, the walls groaning as the passageway stretches unnaturally, bending and warping in ways that defy physics. Grant tightens his grip on his rifle, trying to keep his balance as the ground beneath them seems to ripple like the surface of a disturbed pond. "Grant, we have to find the Keeper again. Force it to tell us the truth," Elias says, urgency sharpening his tone. "We're running out of time." Grant glances toward the way they came, considering the path back to the surface, but the thought of leaving without answers gnaws at him. He exhales through gritted teeth, giving Elias a curt nod. "All right, but no more games. If that thing tries to mess with our heads again, I'm putting it down." They push deeper into the heart of the structure, navigating through corridors that twist and change as if reshaping themselves to guide or trap them. The air grows colder, and a thin mist curls along the floor, carrying whispers that seem to rise from the walls. Elias stops abruptly, his hand raised. "Do you hear that?" Grant strains his ears, catching faint voices, as if a crowd murmurs just beyond the edges of perception. But there's something familiar in those tones, distorted echoes of his own voice, and Elias's, tangled with others. It's us. And more of those echoes. What is this place turning into? Elias's face pales, and he glances at Grant, his expression desperate. It's collapsing in on itself. The rift is bending time, overlapping moments, past, present, future. If we don't stabilize it, we'll be caught in the loops, just like those other explorers. A new voice cuts through the whispers, deep and resonant, carrying a cold edge. You cannot comprehend the weight of your actions, last an echo. To sever the gate is to unravel reality itself. The Keeper materializes before them, its form flickering like a glitching hologram. It appears more fragmented than before, its once imposing presence now marred by cracks of light that pulse like veins. Grant raises his rifle, but Elias steps forward, his voice harsh. "You've been using us this whole time, sending us into that chamber, pushing us to disrupt the core. Why? What are you trying to hide?" The Keeper's eyes glimmer, its expression inscrutable. "I am the guardian of the rift, bound to the gate by those who created me. My purpose is to maintain the balance between realms, but the Astrax's interference has weakened the seal." Elias narrows his eyes, his frustration boiling over. "You kept pushing us, making us think we had a choice, but you've been leading us down a path you already set. What's really on the other side of that gate?" The Keeper hesitates, a strange silence stretching between them, broken only by the hum of the structure. "The other side is beyond your comprehension. A void where time and form lose meaning. But it is not empty. It is waiting." Grant's grip tightens on his rifle, every muscle in his body coiled with tension. Waiting for what? The Keeper's gaze shifts, a flicker of something like regret in its expression. For those who disturb the balance, to offer themselves as anchors, to hold the rift closed. Elias's eyes widen, and he takes a step back, shaking his head. "You want to make us sacrifices, to trap us here, like those other explorers, to keep the rift sealed." The structure groans, the vibrations growing more violent, as if the entire place is on the verge of coming apart. The Keeper's form shudders, struggling to maintain its coherence. It is the only way, to prevent the others from crossing through. But there is still a chance for you to escape, last an echo. Leave now, and I will close the gate, alone. Grant exchanges a look with Elias, the weight of the decision pressing down on them like a physical force. He can see the conflict in Elias's eyes, the desire for answers battling against the instinct for survival. "You know we can't just leave it like this," Elias says quietly. "Not with the Astrax out there, and whatever else is on the other side." Grant exhales sharply, a bitter smile twisting his lips. "Yeah, I figured. But if you're wrong about this, Elias, we're not getting another shot." Elias nods, determination hardening his expression. "We'll force the Keeper to help us, on our terms." Together, they advance, each step taking them closer to the Keeper's wavering form, closer to the heart of the mystery that binds the structure, the rift, and the secrets of the unknown realm beyond. The air thickens with tension as Elias and Grant step closer to the Keeper. The flickering figure looms before them, its form wavering like a mirage, caught between the reality of the structure and the shifting rift. Elias can feel the pulse of energy in the air, the kind that makes the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. "What do you mean you can close the gate alone?" Elias demands, his voice cutting through the hum of energy. "You've been manipulating us, using us to push your agenda. Why should we trust you now?" The Keeper's eyes flash, the glow within them shifting from an eerie green to a deep crimson, and for a moment, Elias sees a flicker of emotion. Fear? Regret? Trust is a luxury you cannot afford. Last. The rift's instability threatens to consume everything, and I cannot allow the Astrax to breach it. They will unleash horrors beyond comprehension. Grant steps forward, his posture aggressive. "Then you know what we're facing out there. Why not just tell us everything? You keep hinting at this balance, but what does that really mean?" The Keeper hesitates, the distortion around it pulsating with uncertainty. "You must understand, knowledge can be a weapon, and the Astrax wield it with malevolence. If I reveal too much, it could change the course of your actions in ways you cannot foresee." Elias scoffs, feeling frustration boil over. "And leaving us in the dark has worked so well so far. We're in the middle of a collapsing structure, while you sit back and play puppet master." The Keeper's form wavers, its voice low and almost pleading. "The path you tread is fraught with danger. The choices you make now will echo through time. You are not simply pawns, you are the last and the echo. Your connection to this realm is profound." Grant shoots Elias a glance, confusion mixing with determination. "Elias, we can't keep standing here arguing with a hologram. We need a plan. If the Astrax are already out there, we're running out of time." Elias takes a deep breath, trying to push the anger down. "You're right. We need to understand what we're dealing with first. Keeper, tell us how the rift can be stabilized." The Keeper's gaze sharpens, and the energy around it brightens momentarily. There are 3 anchors, symbols of power within the structure that can be attuned to the rift. Each anchor is hidden within the depths of this place, guarded by remnants of those who came before. To close the rift, you must find and activate them. Elias nods slowly, absorbing the information. "And if we fail?" The Keeper's silence hangs heavy in the air, the flicker of its form dimming as if weighed down by the gravity of its own words. Failure would mean destruction, not just of this realm, but the very fabric of reality. Grant exhales sharply, his gaze darting toward the shadows that linger just out of sight. "Then let's not waste any more time. Where are these anchors?" The Keeper gestures toward the endless corridors, the walls shifting and bending as if alive. "The first lies within the Hall of Whispers, a chamber that echoes the thoughts of the past. The second rests in the Chamber of Echoes, where sound and memory intertwine. The last is hidden in the heart of the structure, a place where all paths converge." Elias clenches his fists, determination replacing the fear. "Then we split up. We need to find these anchors as quickly as possible." Grant shakes his head, his voice firm. "No way. We stick together. We don't know what else is lurking in the dark." Elias meets Grant's gaze, recognizing the gravity in his friend's expression. "You're right. We need each other's backs. But we can't afford to waste time either. How about we find the Hall of Whispers first? It sounds like the most likely place to gather information." The Keeper interjects, its voice resonating through the air like a distant thunderstorm. "Be warned, the Hall of Whispers is not merely a chamber. It is a living memory. What you hear may not be what you expect." They set off together, the atmosphere shifting as they navigate the labyrinthine corridors. The walls pulse with a strange rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, as they venture deeper into the structure. The light dims, shadows stretching ominously, creating an unsettling atmosphere that seems to swallow them whole. As they walk, Elias's mind races with thoughts about the anchors, the Keeper's ominous warnings, and the looming presence of the Astrax. "Grant, what do you think the Astrax are planning? Why would they want to open the rift?" Grant shrugs, his expression grim. Power. Control. Whatever lies on the other side, they want it for themselves. They see this as an opportunity to dominate, to turn whatever this place holds into a weapon. Elias nods, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. We have to make sure that doesn't happen. Suddenly, the corridor opens up into a vast chamber, the Hall of Whispers. The space is expansive, its high ceilings adorned with intricate carvings that seem to move and shift as they catch the light. Ethereal echoes bounce off the walls, creating a chorus of voices that swirl around them. Elias squints, trying to make sense of the whispers. It's disorienting. Grant steps cautiously into the room, his weapon raised, alert to any potential threats. Stay sharp, this might be a trap. Elias takes a breath, focusing on the sounds that fill the air. Voices blend together, forming an incoherent symphony of past explorers and their final moments. He strains to listen, searching for clarity within the chaos. Can you hear that? It's like fragments of conversations. One voice rises above the rest, distinct and filled with desperation. We shouldn't have come here. It's alive. It's watching us. Elias's heart races as he feels the weight of the words. They were warned. We've walked into something far more dangerous than we realized. Grant's expression hardens, scanning the room for any signs of movement. Then we need to find that anchor fast. As they delve deeper into the hall, Elias closes his eyes, allowing the echoes to wash over him. He tries to focus, to sort through the disjointed memories. Show me the truth, he whispers under his breath, feeling a strange connection to the voices. Suddenly, the whispers sharpen, and one voice breaks through clearly. You must listen. The Keeper is not what it seems. It will lead you to doom. Elias jerks back, startled. Did you hear that? Someone's trying to warn us. Grant moves closer, his expression skeptical. Or it could be another trick. We need to keep moving. The voices continue to swirl, echoing in Elias's mind. He can feel their urgency, their fear. They sacrificed us. We thought we could control it, but it consumed us. Elias grips his head, overwhelmed by the cacophony. It's like a flood of memories. Grant pulls him back, his voice low but firm. Elias, focus. We have to find the anchor. Keep moving. They press on, the whispers growing louder as they draw nearer to the center of the hall. The voices converge into a singular moment, forming a collective memory. Elias can almost see the figures of past explorers flickering around them, trapped in an endless cycle of regret and despair. One figure steps forward, a man clad in a tattered spacesuit, his eyes wide with fear. We thought we were the chosen ones. The Keeper promised us knowledge, power, but all we found was madness. Elias stumbles back, feeling the weight of the man's sorrow. What happened to you? The figure shakes his head, his form becoming translucent as if he's being pulled back into the memory. It devoured our minds. We became echoes, trapped in this chamber, forced to relive our mistakes. Do not trust the Keeper. Grant tenses, his weapon still raised. Elias, we have to go now. We can't let ourselves get caught in whatever this is. Elias steels himself, looking deep into the figure's eyes. But we can't leave without knowing. We can't let their suffering be in vain. He feels the weight of responsibility press down on him, igniting a fierce determination. The figure's voice echoes with desperation. You have the power to change it, break the cycle, find the anchor. With that, the memory fades, and the voices start to swirl chaotically again, pulling Elias in different directions. Grant's hand grabs his shoulder, pulling him back to the present. We need to focus on finding the anchor, Elias, now. They move deeper into the hall, the atmosphere growing denser. The whispers grow louder, an overwhelming tide of voices threatening to drown them. Elias can feel the energy shift, the weight of the echoes pressing against him, each word a fragment of a lost memory. Finally, they come upon a pedestal in the center of the chamber, an ornate structure adorned with intricate symbols that pulse with energy. It looks like it could hold the anchor they seek. Elias approaches, eyes wide. This has to be it, the anchor. Grant nods, his gaze scanning the chamber for threats. Just be careful. We don't know what activating it might do. Elias reaches out, his fingers brushing against the symbols, and as he does, a rush of energy surges through him. He feels a connection, a bond that ties him to the past, to the voices that haunt this place. Suddenly, the whispers intensify, becoming a deafening roar. You cannot control it, it will consume you. The voices scream, their fear palpable. Elias pulls back, panic rising in his chest. What is happening? Grant steps back, gripping his weapon tightly. Elias, we have to go now. We're triggering something. Elias shakes his head, determination hardening his expression. No, I need to understand. The chamber shakes, the echoes transforming into a tempest of chaos as Elias stands firm. The pedestal glows brighter, and the symbols start to shift and rearrange, forming a pattern that reveals glimpses of the past, the explorers trapped in their own despair. Elias feels the pull of their memories, the weight of their regrets settling on him like a shroud. I can't let this happen again. I won't let it consume us. With a surge of will, Elias pushes through the noise, focusing on the symbols, attempting to decipher their meaning. The symbols resonate with his thoughts, the energy swirling around him intensifying. The Keeper's voice returns, echoing in his mind. You are the last. Your choices shape reality. Choose wisely. Elias closes his eyes, letting the chaos fade into the background. He concentrates, feeling the pulse of the anchor beneath his fingers. I won't let fear dictate our path. The ground beneath him shakes, and the pedestal explodes with light, a shock wave that sends him reeling backward. Grant shouts, Elias. As the light fades, Elias finds himself standing alone in the hall, the echoes around him silent. The chamber is transformed, the walls glimmering with a soft luminescence, and in the center, the anchor lies pulsating with energy. Confusion clouds his mind, and he looks around for Grant. Grant? Where are you? His voice echoes back, lonely and hollow, and panic begins to rise. Grant. Suddenly, Grant appears, stumbling into view, breathing heavily. What happened? You just disappeared. Elias glances at the anchor, its light dimming slightly as it stabilizes. I don't know. I think I activated it somehow. But the whispers, they've stopped. Grant shakes his head, still looking wary. What if that's a bad sign? We need to get out of here. Elias nods, but a part of him feels the pull of the anchor. Wait, I think we might have stabilized part of the rift. We need to test it. Grant frowns, a mix of concern and disbelief on his face. And how do you plan to do that? Elias steps forward, feeling a strange connection to the anchor. We have to harness its energy. It might give us insight into the rift, maybe even lead us to the next anchor. Grant looks skeptical, but he sees the determination in Elias's eyes. Fine, but we need to be careful. We can't afford to get caught in whatever this is. Elias reaches out, placing his hands on the anchor, and feels a surge of energy flow through him. The light intensifies, swirling around him, and he closes his eyes, focusing on the connection. Visions flash before him, scenes of past explorers trapped in the hall, their faces filled with terror. He sees the rift tearing through reality, a chaotic blend of light and darkness that threatens to engulf everything. In a moment of clarity, he realizes that the rift is a reflection of their fear, their doubts, and their failures. This is what they meant. The rift is feeding off their despair. Elias gasps, the realization hitting him like a punch. We need to confront it. We can't let it control us. Grant looks alarmed, his eyes darting around the chamber. What are you talking about? We're not ready. Elias feels the energy building, the anchor resonating with his resolve. It's the only way, Grant. We need to face it, face ourselves, to truly close the rift. With that, Elias channels the energy of the anchor, feeling it align with his thoughts, his intentions. The room shudders as the energy swirls around them, the walls vibrating with power. The visions intensify, and Elias is pulled deeper into the connection, seeing the rift manifesting before him. It thrums with a dark energy, pulsing like a heartbeat, and he can feel the despair radiating from it. "Face your fears, only then will the rift be closed," the voice echoes, and Elias knows he must confront whatever darkness lies within. Elias grips the anchor tightly, his heart pounding. We can't let it consume us. We're not afraid. The rift howls, a cacophony of anguished screams filling the air. Shadows twist and curl, trying to grasp at him, but he stands firm, drawing strength from the anchor's energy. Suddenly, the shadows coalesce, forming the figures of the past explorers, their eyes filled with sorrow and regret. "You cannot escape us. We are part of this place now." Elias shakes his head, resolute. "You're wrong. You can be freed. This place doesn't have to hold you." The figures reach out, their hands grasping at the air. "You think you can change what we've become? You will join us." Grant stands beside Elias, gripping his weapon tightly. "We're not afraid of you." With that, Elias focuses all his energy into the anchor, channeling it toward the rift. The shadows scream, and the anchor pulses with light, illuminating the chamber in a blinding brilliance. The figures waver, their forms flickering as the light washes over them. "No, you cannot do this." Elias grits his teeth, pouring everything he has into the connection. "I won't let fear dictate our fate." The rift screams, the shadows twisting violently as the light intensifies. In that moment, Elias feels the collective fear of the past explorers and their torment, but he also feels something else, a flicker of hope. With a final surge of will, he releases the energy, and the light erupts like a supernova, engulfing everything in its radiance. In an instant, the echoes are silenced. The light fades, and Elias blinks, disoriented. He looks around, the Hall of Whispers transformed. The walls shimmer, reflecting the calm energy of the anchor, now stabilizing the rift. Grant breathes heavily, disbelief etched on his face. What just happened? Elias looks at the anchor, the pulse of energy now steady and calm. "I think we faced the darkness together. We confronted what was holding the rift open." A new clarity washes over him, and he feels a weight lift from his shoulders. "We have to keep going. There are more anchors to find." Grant nods, his expression resolute. "Right? But we need to be on guard. We can't let our guard down." They leave the Hall of Whispers, moving through the now peaceful corridors. The energy in the structure feels different, lighter, as if the weight of the past has been lifted. As they walk, Elias's mind races with possibilities. They have the first anchor, they have the momentum. But the Astracs remain out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their chance. Elias glances at Grant, his heart steadying. "We'll find the next anchor together. We can't stop now." Grant meets his gaze, a fierce determination mirrored in his eyes. Together, they forge ahead, determined to uncover the mysteries that lie ahead and to confront the Astracs before it's too late. The shadows may lurk in the corners, but they are no longer afraid. They are the last and the echo, and they will fight to protect their world from the encroaching darkness. The corridors of the structure pulse with renewed energy, the air heavy with the scent of ancient dust and forgotten memories. Elias and Grant walk side by side, the echoes of the past still lingering in their minds, but now there is a sense of purpose guiding their every step. The first anchor has stabilized the rift, but time is slipping away, and the Astracs are still lurking just beyond their reach. "What do you think we'll find in the Chamber of Echoes?" Grant asks, his voice breaking the silence as they navigate through the winding passages. Elias glances at him, considering the question. "I think it'll be more than just an anchor. If the Hall of Whispers was a reflection of the past, the Chamber of Echoes might give us insight into the choices that led us here." Grant raises an eyebrow, skepticism etched on his face. "You think it'll show us how to fight the Astracs?" "It's possible," Elias replies, his heart racing at the thought. "If we can learn from the past, Maybe we can find a way to outsmart them. The duo arrives at a large archway, its entrance adorned with intricate carvings that shimmer with a faint luminescence. The air thrums with anticipation, and Elias feels the pull of the second anchor drawing them in. "This must be it," he murmurs, stepping through the archway. Inside the Chamber of Echoes, the atmosphere shifts dramatically. The air is thick with sound, whispers, laughter, cries, all interwoven into a tapestry of voices that reverberate through the vast space. The walls shimmer with an ethereal glow, reflecting the myriad emotions that linger within. Elias steps forward, his senses heightened. It's like we're surrounded by memories. He closes his eyes, allowing the cacophony to wash over him. Each sound seems to tell a story, a fragment of lives once lived. "Keep your focus," Grant reminds him, scanning the chamber for any signs of danger. "We don't know what could be lurking here." Elias nods, though he can't help but feel drawn to the voices. "They're calling to us, Grant. We need to listen." Suddenly, one voice rises above the rest, clear and resonant. "You seek the anchor, but are you prepared to confront the echoes of your past?" Elias's heart skips a beat, and he opens his eyes, locking onto a shimmering figure that stands in the center of the chamber, a manifestation of a long-lost explorer, their form flickering like a candle in the wind. "Who are you?" Elias asks, stepping closer. The figure looks at him, its eyes filled with wisdom and sorrow. "I am a memory of those who came before. We were once like you, driven by curiosity and ambition. But ambition can be a double-edged sword." Grant shifts uncomfortably, his gaze darting around the chamber. "What happened to you?" The figure sighs, a sound that echoes through the chamber like a gentle breeze. "We sought knowledge, but we were unprepared for what we uncovered. The rift is not just a gateway. It is a mirror that reflects our innermost fears and desires." Elias absorbs the words, feeling the weight of their meaning. "So you're saying the rift can show us what we fear the most?" "Indeed," the figure replies, its form flickering. "But it also offers a chance for redemption. If you wish to activate the anchor, you must first confront your own echoes." Elias exchanges a glance with Grant, uncertainty brewing within him. "What does that mean? How do we confront our echoes?" "You must face the memories that bind you, the choices that led you here," the figure explains. "Only then can you unlock the anchor's power." The chamber shifts, the walls morphing into scenes from Elias's past, images of his childhood, moments of joy and sorrow playing out before him. He watches himself as a young boy, filled with dreams, laughter echoing in the air. But then the scenes darken, shadows creeping in, revealing moments of loss and regret. Elias's heart aches as he sees his mother's face, the last memory of her alive, full of warmth and love. But alongside that memory, he sees the moment she fell ill, the helplessness he felt as he watched her fade away. "Elias." Grant's voice breaks through, grounding him. "You have to focus. Don't get lost in it." Elias takes a deep breath, forcing himself to push through the memories, recognizing the pain but refusing to let it consume him. "I have to remember this," he murmurs, determined to harness the power of his past. The chamber shifts again, and he finds himself standing before another memory, the day he joined the expedition, filled with excitement and hope. But just as quickly, it turns to doubt, the faces of his teammates flickering in and out, reminding him of the weight of responsibility he carries. "You've been carrying this burden alone," the figure's voice echoes, resonating with understanding. "But you are not alone. You have allies, friends who will stand with you." Elias looks back at Grant, who stands firmly beside him. "I'm not alone. I have you." Suddenly, the chamber darkens, the air crackling with tension. The echoes shift, becoming chaotic, filled with anger and betrayal. A new figure emerges, a darker version of Elias, cloaked in shadows. "You think you can escape? You think you can face the Astrax without acknowledging what you truly are?" Elias steps back, fear gripping him. "What do you mean?" "You're a coward," the shadowy figure spits, its voice dripping with disdain. "You run from your fears instead of facing them. How can you protect anyone when you can't even protect yourself? Elias clenches his fists, the anger rising within him. I'm not afraid of you. You're just a reflection of my doubts. Am I? The figure mocks, advancing. Or am I the truth you refuse to acknowledge? You are not the hero you pretend to be. You are haunted by your failures. The air crackles with tension, and Elias feels the weight of the accusation. I am not defined by my past. I've learned from it. Learned? The figure sneers. You've merely hidden it away, buried it deep inside. But I am here to remind you. You cannot escape your own darkness. In that moment, Elias realizes the truth in the words. He has been running from his past, avoiding the pain instead of confronting it. No more. I won't let you control me. He gathers his strength, focusing on the memories of his friends, the bond they share. You think you can face me with your little band of misfits? The shadow taunts, its voice echoing through the chamber. Elias raises his head, refusing to back down. They're not just misfits, they're family. Together, we'll find a way to close the rift. The chamber shakes, the energy shifting around them. Elias can feel the echoes merging, the past intertwining with the present. You are nothing without me, the figure shouts, but Elias stands firm. I am everything because of them, he yells back, the strength of his voice resonating through the chamber. Suddenly, the shadows begin to recede, the figure flickering in and out. You may think you've won, but I will always be a part of you. Then I will learn to live with you, Elias responds, the weight of the shadow lifting. I won't let fear dictate my future. As the figure dissipates, the energy in the chamber shifts, the echoes transforming into a harmonious chorus of voices. The shimmering figure of the explorer reappears, a look of approval in its eyes. You have confronted your past, and in doing so, you have unlocked the anchor's power. Elias steps forward, determination coursing through him. What do I need to do? Channel the energy of your truth, the figure instructs. Only then can you activate the anchor and harness its power to stabilize the rift. Elias takes a deep breath, feeling the energy swirling around him. He closes his eyes and focuses, drawing strength from the memories of his friends and family. He channels their love and support, allowing it to flow through him. With a sudden burst of energy, he reaches out to the anchor, his hands glowing with light. The chamber shudders, the echoes harmonizing into a symphony of hope and strength. We can do this, he shouts, feeling the energy surge around him. The anchor pulses, illuminating the chamber with a brilliant light that envelops Elias and Grant. They stand together, united against the darkness, and with one final push, Elias releases the energy, activating the anchor. The chamber erupts with light, the echoes fading into a chorus of joyful laughter. The walls shimmer, reflecting the bonds of friendship and unity forged through their struggles. As the light fades, Elias opens his eyes, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. The chamber of echoes is transformed, the energy stabilizing the rift, sealing it with a powerful barrier. We did it, Grant breathes, awe shining in his eyes. Elias nods, a smile breaking across his face. We faced our fears and emerged stronger. But we can't stop now. There's still one more anchor to find. As they exit the chamber, the atmosphere feels different, lighter, filled with possibility. The whispers of the past have faded, replaced by a renewed sense of hope. What do you think the last anchor will reveal? Grant asks, curiosity sparkling in his eyes. I don't know, Elias replies, determination hardening his resolve. But we'll face it together. Whatever it is, we're ready. They journey onward, navigating the corridors of the structure, their spirits lifted by their victory. The darkness that once loomed over them feels less threatening now, diminished by the bonds they've forged and the challenges they've overcome. As they reach the final archway, Elias feels a sense of anticipation building within him. This is it, the last anchor, the final piece of the puzzle. He glances at Grant, and they exchange a nod, silently vowing to face whatever lies ahead together. Inside the final chamber, the air crackles with energy. The anchor stands at the center, pulsating with a radiant light that casts ethereal shadows across the walls. "This is it," Elias breathes, stepping forward. The walls shimmer, revealing glimpses of the future, flickers of hope intermingled with uncertainty. "You have come far, but the greatest challenge lies ahead." The voice echoes through the chamber, filled with both warning and encouragement. "We're ready," Elias declares, his heart racing with anticipation. As they approach the anchor, a figure emerges from the shadows, a tall, imposing presence cloaked in darkness. "You think you can seal the rift? You are but mortals, bound by your limitations." Elias squares his shoulders, fear dissipating as he meets the figure's gaze. "We've faced our fears and learned from our past. We won't let you win." "Foolish child," the figure sneers. "Your bravery is admirable, but it is not enough. The Astrax will come for you, and you will fall." Elias feels a surge of anger, fueled by the figure's words. "We are not afraid of you or the Astrax. Together, we will protect our world." The figure laughs, a dark, hollow sound that reverberates through the chamber. "Your unity is nothing but an illusion. When faced with true despair, you will crumble." "We will never give up," Elias retorts, stepping closer to the anchor. "We've come too far to back down now." Suddenly, the chamber trembles, the walls vibrating as the figure's presence grows more ominous. "You think you can change your fate? The Astrax will unleash their wrath upon you, and you will be consumed." Elias shakes his head, his resolve unwavering. "You don't understand. We've already faced despair and emerged stronger. We know the truth of our strength." "Then prove it," the figure challenges, extending a hand. "Face your despair head-on. Only then can you unlock the anchor's true power." Elias looks at Grant, determination radiating between them. "Together, we can confront this. We can face whatever darkness lies ahead." Grant nods, gripping his weapon tightly. "We'll fight for our future." With that, Elias steps toward the anchor, channeling the energy of their friendship and the hope they've cultivated along the way. The chamber pulses with light, the shadows receding as the anchor's energy resonates with their determination. As the light intensifies, the figure screams, the darkness recoiling. "You cannot do this. I will not allow it." "You don't control us," Elias shouts, feeling the energy surge around him. He releases it, the light exploding outward, enveloping the figure in a brilliant blaze. In that moment, Elias feels the echoes of the past, the choices that led him here, and the bonds forged through struggle. The energy channels through him, unlocking the anchor's true power and sealing the rift once and for all. The chamber shakes, and the figure dissipates, the darkness finally vanquished. The light bathes Elias and Grant, filling them with warmth and hope. As the light fades, the chamber is transformed, the energy stabilizing the rift and sealing it behind them. They stand together, breathless and victorious, their hearts full of the hope they fought for. "We did it," Elias whispers, disbelief washing over him. Grant grins, the weight of their victory lifting. "Together, we face the darkness and emerge stronger." As they exit the chamber, Elias looks back one last time, knowing that they have not only conquered the rift, but have also forged a path for the future, a future where they will stand together against any threat. "Let's go home," Elias says, a smile breaking across his face. Together, they step into the light, ready to embrace whatever lies ahead, knowing that they have the strength to face it all.